Marcus Thompson stepped through the front door of his modest two-bedroom apartment, exhaustion weighing on his shoulders like a heavy coat after a grueling 12-hour shift at the warehouse. The dim hallway light flickered as he kicked off his boots, expecting the usual chaos. Toys scattered across the living room floor, his two young daughters giggling over cartoons, and the faint smell of whatever quick dinner he'd planned to whip up. But tonight was different. The air carried the sharp scent of lemon cleaner, and the floor gleamed unnaturally under the overhead bulb. His heart skipped a beat as he rounded the corner into the kitchen, and there she was, Elena Vasquez, the CEO of Apex Logistics, the multi-billion-dollar company where he worked as a lowly forklift operator, on her knees scrubbing his linoleum floor with a sponge. Her designer suit jacket was draped over a chair, sleeves rolled up, and her perfectly manicured hands were covered in suds. Marcus froze, his keys slipping from his fingers and clattering to the ground. "Ms. Vasquez, what are you doing here?" The question hung in the air, thick with confusion and a hint of alarm. Elena looked up, her sharp green eyes softening as she wiped her forehead with the back of her arm. She stood slowly, brushing off her knees, and offered a small, almost shy smile. "Marcus, I didn't mean to startle you. I came to help." But as the words left her lips, Marcus felt a surge of emotions crashing over him. Bewilderment, embarrassment, and something deeper he couldn't quite name. Little did he know, this unexpected intrusion would unravel a story of shared pain, hidden kindness, and redemption that would change both their lives forever. Marcus's mind raced back to how this could have happened. He was a 35-year-old single father, raising his daughters, Aaliyah, 7, and Jasmine, 5, on his own since their mother, Keisha, had passed away 3 years ago from complications during what should have been a routine surgery. Keisha had been his high school sweetheart, the light of his world, and her death had left a void that no amount of overtime shifts could fill. The girls were his everything, but balancing work, bills, and parenthood in a city that seemed designed to grind people like him down was a daily battle. Apex Logistics had been his employer for the last 5 years, a job that paid just enough to keep the lights on, but not enough to afford daycare or a housekeeper. He'd heard of Elena Vasquez, of course. She was a legend in the industry, a self-made woman who had risen from immigrant roots to lead one of the largest supply chain companies in the country. But why was she here, in his cramped apartment in the projects, cleaning like she was his maid? Elena gestured for him to sit at the small kitchen table, which was now spotless and set with plates of what looked like homemade lasagna, something he hadn't smelled since Keisha's cooking. "Please, Marcus, hear me out, before you call the police or throw me out," she said with a light chuckle that didn't quite reach her eyes. The girls were in their room, playing quietly with new toys that Elena must have brought, their laughter a distant melody that eased some of Marcus's tension. He sat, his broad frame slumping into the chair, and nodded for her to continue. What she revealed next would shatter his defenses and bring tears to his eyes. It started with a file on her desk. As CEO, Elena reviewed employee performance reports monthly. But Marcus's had caught her eye not for productivity, though he was one of the best, but for the notes from HR about his frequent absences due to childcare issues. Digging deeper, she learned about Keisha's death, the single-parent struggle, and how Marcus had turned down promotions that required travel because he couldn't leave the girls. Something about his story resonated with her. Elena, at 42, was childless by choice, or so she told the world. But the truth was buried deeper. 15 years ago, she'd lost her only child, a baby boy named Matteo, to a rare genetic disorder just months after his birth. The grief had driven her to bury herself in work, climbing the corporate ladder with ruthless efficiency. But it had left her isolated, her mansion empty and echoing with what-ifs. One evening, after a board meeting where she'd secured a massive deal, Elena had driven home, alone, the victory feeling hollow. She passed by Marcus's neighborhood on a whim, curious about the lives of the people who made her company run. Spotting his address from the file, a breach of privacy she knew was wrong, but desperation overrode ethics. She parked and watched from her car as he arrived home with the girls, their small hands in his, faces lit with joy despite the run-down building. It stirred something in her, a maternal instinct long suppressed. The next day, she began anonymously sending small gifts, groceries, school supplies, even a check for utilities disguised as a company bonus. But it wasn't enough. She needed to do more, to connect, to heal through helping. Marcus listened, his calloused hands clasped tightly on the table. "But why me? Why not donate to a charity or something?" he asked, his voice rough from years of shouting over warehouse noise. Elena's eyes welled up. "Because you're real, Marcus. You're fighting every day for your girls, just like I wish I could have fought harder for Matteo. I see in you the father I never got to see grow with my son. And honestly, I've been so alone. Success means nothing without purpose." She paused, pulling out a photo from her purse, a faded picture of a tiny baby in her arms. "This is why I'm here, to honor him by helping you." Tears stung Marcus's eyes as memories of Keisha flooded back. The late nights holding her hand in the hospital, promising to be strong for the girls. The mornings where getting out of bed felt impossible, but Aaliyah's smile pulled him through. He reached across the table, hesitating before placing his hand over Elena's. I don't know what to say. No one's ever done anything like this for us." The vulnerability in his voice cracked the armor he'd built around his heart. Over the next few weeks, their unlikely friendship blossomed. Elena started by helping with the girls after school, picking them up in her sleek black SUV, which turned heads in the neighborhood. At first, Marcus was wary, insisting on background checks and clear boundaries. But Elena's genuine warmth won him over. She taught Aaliyah how to code simple programs on her laptop, sparking an interest in tech that Marcus could never have afforded to nurture. Jasmine, the shy one, opened up during baking sessions, where Elena shared stories of her own childhood in a small Mexican village, making tamales with her abuela. Challenges arose, as they always do. Rumors spread at work, whispers that Marcus was getting special treatment, fueling jealousy among coworkers. One day, a burly supervisor named Hank confronted him in the break room. "So sleeping your way to the top, huh? CEO's pet project?" The words hit like a punch, laced with racial undertones that Marcus had faced his whole life. As a black man in a predominantly white industry, he'd learned to swallow his pride, but this cut deep. He stormed out, driving home in a rage, only to find Elena there again, this time organizing the girls' closet. Seeing his face, she knew something was wrong. They talked late into the night, the girls asleep in the next room. Marcus opened up about the systemic barriers, the loans denied because of his zip code, the promotions overlooked despite his skills, the constant fear that one wrong move could cost him everything. Elena listened, then shared her own struggles, the boardroom battles where she was dismissed as too emotional or diversity hire, the loneliness of being a Latina woman at the top. "We're more alike than different," she said. Together, they brainstormed solutions. Elena used her influence to implement company-wide changes, on-site childcare, diversity training, and scholarships for employees' kids. For Marcus, she offered a management position with flexible hours, but only if he earned it through training. No handouts. The emotional peak came during Aaliyah's school play. Marcus had forgotten about it amid a hectic week, arriving late and flustered. But there was Elena, front row with Jasmine on her lap, cheering louder than anyone. After the show, as Aaliyah beamed with pride, Elena pulled Marcus aside. "I found something," she whispered, handing him an envelope. Inside were medical records. Keisha's case had been mishandled, eligible for a settlement that could secure the girl's future. Elena had hired investigators, using her resources to uncover what Marcus never could. "This isn't charity," she said. "It's justice." Marcus broke down then, tears streaming as he hugged her, the weight of years lifting. Months turned into a year, and their bond deepened. Marcus excelled in his new role, mentoring other single parents at Apex. Elena found joy in auntie duties, her mansion now filled with the girls' artwork. They faced